time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On a Tuesday, yes it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you all with us for the next 60 minutes. Nick Hamilton drops by in 10 minutes. Founder of Nitecast Media, also a host over at SiriusXM Radio. In Atlanta last night for the Natty. David Aardsma to talk some baseball. We haven't talked to him in a minute, so we'll catch up with him on some of the latest stories in free agency and all of that. A couple segments with him today on the show. Always good to catch up with our former Major League reliever and our closer on the show. Sam Yarnell and I will start things out, though, with the obvious. Ohio State outlasts Notre Dame for their first national title in, a decade. They keep Notre Dame from winning their first in almost 40 years. And I'll tell you, at 31-7, I was basically ready to turn the game off and watch reruns of our show out here in Las Vegas. And then all of a sudden, Notre Dame caught a little spark, get a turnover, and are able to make a game of this at 31-23, Sam. And then Ohio State comes out. They have a third and long after a questionable call on second down, a very conservative call on second down, where it almost looked like they were content to try to run as much clock and then punt it back away to Notre Dame. Ohio State on third down pulls out the long bomb. Will Howard able to throw one on the money and set up a field goal that would put this game away, Sam. What was the big takeaway for you coming out of this national championship game?
Man, it was that Ohio State's football team is just that much better than literally everybody else in college football. It's an NFL team on a college football field, Jason Page, and they showed you that last night. I mean, they imposed their will at the line of scrimmage. Quinshon Judkins rushing for 100 yards, their team rushing for 214 yards total. Like, it's crazy to me how good this Ohio State team is and how much professional level talent there is riddled throughout this 22-man lineup and then some, right? It was on display, as you mentioned, last night, especially in crunch time when Will Howard had to make the big throw he did, when his receivers, and especially, Jeremiah Smith, who, my gosh, they're so lucky they're going to have that kid for so long. But, making the big plays when it matters. That is what being a professional in the world of football is about, right? And they showed last night that they just have that innate ability more so than, in my opinion, I think that of many other people in the world of college football. They have that ability more than anyone else in the country right now, or in the country did this season, I guess we should say. So a fitting national championship, Jason, but truly not a surprise that the Ohio State team was able to handle their business in the stepping on necks manner that they did last night against Notre Dame.
Yeah, they certainly did. I mean, look, it's rare that you look at a college football field in a national championship game and look at a freshman and say, best player on the field. But Jeremiah Smith certainly took that title when you watched that game last night. I'll say this for Notre Dame. They were clearly outclassed in terms of talent. The fact that they even made a game of this in the fourth quarter was pretty damn remarkable. I mean, because they were outmatched in just about every way when you looked at these two rosters. And after Notre Dame drove down the field and scored a touchdown, I'm like, hey, we might have something here. And Ohio State immediately came right back, no panic. And I'll say this about Ohio State too, Sam. They're a team that, and I don't know if the Michigan game is if there's any causation there with the loss to Michigan, but it looked like they just trusted their talent. It looked like they just trusted their talent to go out there and sort of carry the day. And give Ryan Day credit. They made an adjustment after that opening drive, said, all right, fine. You want to try and beat us, Riley Leonard, with your arm? You're going to beat us with your arm because we're not going to let you run the football. And we saw what happened when they put Notre Dame in that position. I want to get more into the game and sort of where we go from here after this Ohio State win. But first, a word from our friends over at Edge Boost. Are you making money every day from your daily sports betting? I'm always about trying to find ways to take sports betting to the next level, and that's exactly why I'm pumped to tell you about Edge Boost, the financial platform that pays you cash back to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account, pays you for every deposit. With the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you're getting up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're already doing. Nobody else is doing that for you. It's a no-brainer. Plus, your Edge Boost debit card starts with a $250,000 daily limit, and it'll never be declined for gambling activity. We've all been there. You go to the ATM and it doesn't work. Not the case with the Edge Boost card. They've got built-in tools to help you stay responsible, and there's absolutely no hidden fees or minimum required balances. So stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to learn more and sign up today. edgeboost.bet, or make it easy. See that QR code down there? Just click that. Easy as that. Ryan Day gets his national championship, Sam. And now, he joins a select list here of Ohio State football coaches that have done that. It has to silence the critics at the very least here. And, and look, if you look at the odds for next year, they're the favorite to win it all again next year.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I think it's so funny how, myself included, 7 weeks ago, we're sitting right here saying, Ryan Day's got to go. He's not the guy for the Ohio State job. He can't beat Michigan. What are we doing here? Ohio State Ryan Day, simply not the guy. I'll say this. I think that when we talk about football on the whole, right, what is one of the most important things in terms of being a successful football player and also a successful football team and franchise, it's making adjustments. It's what you said they did, especially in that Notre Dame game. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's something that Ohio State did incredibly well all season long. You go through both of their losses, right? The Oregon game. What did they come back and do right after that Oregon game? Rattled off a bunch of consecutive wins and really showed that they had gotten into their groove. Now, granted, in a lot of those games, it took them a while to get hot. But when they got hot, and a lot of teams didn't stand a chance. The one team that did was Michigan. And what did Ohio State do after the Michigan loss? They made the adjustments again and went on this burner through the college football playoffs. Listen, at the end of the day, this is my point. Ryan Day is great at making adjustments, and that's what's kept his job secure in Columbus.
They probably lose this game regardless, but 2 plays in this game from Notre Dame, the 2 fourth down calls, the fake punt on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. Why are you fake punting when everybody knows it's coming and you got a better chance to get those yards with your offense? The other, the field goal down 15 is unconscionable to me from Marcus Freeman. It does nothing for you, and you wind up missing it on top of it. Just want to point that out. We're coming back with Nick Hamilton, Nitecast Media, SiriusXM next. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of the show. Let's keep the conversation moving forward as it relates to Monday night's national championship game. And to do that, we call on an old friend. Nick Hamilton stops by the show. Nitecast Media, also SiriusXM Radio. He was in Atlanta. He's still in Atlanta, as a matter of fact. Doing something we all love to do so much, sit in an airport. Can I ask you that? Can we agree on something? I'm sure we'll agree on this. Nothing brings out the worst in human behavior than airports.
That is true, especially when there's long lines and people don't want to be there longer than they want to be.
Nope. Nothing brings out the very worst in human behavior, like airports.
You're absolutely right.
Yep. I hate it. And it brings out the worst in me. So how did Ohio State do this? And I don't just mean what happened last night. I mean, how did they go from... I'm still scratching my head even more so watching them on this playoff run, trying to figure out how they lost to Michigan and then played this well in these playoffs.
I think sometimes you have to take 2 steps back to make 5 steps worth of progress. And I think they overestimated Michigan. I think they came in overconfident. And oftentimes you can believe your own press. If everybody's hyping you up and saying you're this, that, and the other, and you decide to read your own press and not focus on the opponent in front of you, when the opponent in front of you has nothing to lose, right? Because Michigan has beat them before that. They beat them 3 straight times. So they had really nothing to lose. You didn't have Jim Harbaugh, who went on to the Chargers. You lost a bulk of your offense if you're Michigan. So Michigan had nothing to lose. They had everything riding for them. Ohio State had everything to lose, and obviously they did. But I think they learned a valuable lesson. I think they learned that they were vulnerable. I think they learned that they could lose and this could be the end. And I think they had a come to Jesus meeting, and they realized that, that they had, if they want to win, have any point of having an opportunity to play for a national championship, they're going to have to go ahead and play their behinds off. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, we saw what they did with Tennessee. We saw what they came out and, I mean, they just mollywopped Oregon. I mean, they beat them like they stole something. And then they moved on to Texas and manhandled Texas. And now they were able to play a pretty decent defensive team in Notre Dame at the time. But this is a complete team, like I said before. And I said this even when they played Tennessee. I said, whoever wins the Rose Bowl is going to win the national championship. That was my proclamation because the way I saw Ohio State come out defensively, offensively, special teams, and just talking to a lot of the guys, when I talked to Will Howard, when I spoke with Mecca, when I spoke with Jeremiah Smith, they all talked about the creative nature of the offense that Chip Kelly brought to the table. And I think that Chip Kelly went back to the drawing board and had to realize what his role was as well, which was to be a top-notch offensive coordinator, which I think he is, and to be able to craft those type of plays where Will Howard and Travion Smith, Travion Henderson, excuse me, were able to execute effectively. And that's exactly what they did. Offensively, defensively with Jack Sawyer and those boys. That's it.
What do you say for Notre Dame coming out of a game like this? I'll have you answer that in just a moment. We're talking with Nick Hamilton from Nitecast Media and SiriusXM Radio as well. Real quick word from our friends at Credit Associates. Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt? In over your head trying to make monthly payments? There's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap the way that Will Howard and Ohio State were able to overcome Notre Dame last night. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades with one affordable low monthly payment. Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. Saves you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. Find out how much you could save now. Call 1-800-747-5362, 1-800-747-5362, or just click the QR code below. What do you say for Notre Dame coming out of this now? They've had, multiple disappointments in national championship games since their last one in the 80s. I think the two decisions in this game that I would point to Marcus Freeman on and say, do you wish you had him back, was the fourth down fake punt and the decision to kick the field goal down 14, which was or 15, which was kind of weird, and they wind up missing the field goal. Look, Ohio State was clearly the superior team here, Nick, but what do you say for Notre Dame coming out of this?
When you look at Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame came out, they were red hot. And they came with a.
Hey, you're going to Chicago. I'm all about that 1048 flight to Chicago, man. It's okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not traveling to Chicago. And I apologize.
It's okay.
So anyway, I think with Notre Dame, when you look at them, they came out. Riley Leonard looked like the game manager that we thought he could be. They came out. They kicked the ball off. They went down the field. Riley Leonard was converting on fourth downs like it was going out of style.
Yeah.
They were able to convert up 7-0. And the one thing I can say about Ryan Day can make adjustments very quickly, and that's exactly what he did. They came out, they tied up the game. Then you saw it was 14-7, and it was 21-7. And you're like, okay. And then they get the ball back in the third quarter. Something that Notre Dame experienced in the Sugar Bowl. I think it was the Sugar. No, not the Sugar Bowl. When they played Georgia.
Yeah.
It was the Sugar Bowl when they played Georgia, and how they scored in the second quarter, got the ball back in the third quarter. So it was kind of deja vu for them, except they were on the other side of not receiving the ball. And Ohio State took full advantage. Now, I think Ohio State midway through the third and into the fourth quarter, they took their foot off the gas because I think they were starting to celebrate a little too soon. And they realized that, Notre Dame can come back. And Notre Dame made some adjustments. They were able to convert on third down, on first down and third downs. And I think also, too, you have to look at this. Notre Dame was going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Under Marcus Freeman made sure they were going to fight. They weren't going to just roll over and give up. I don't care what the deficit was. They were going to try to come back and fight. And they brought it to a one-score game at one point. But I think just when Will Howard found Jeremiah Smith wide open downfield, when he was finally tackled around the 10-yard line, I said, okay, this is it. They're done. And that's exactly what happened. I think just Ohio State was too much for him. I mean, like I said, when you have so many weapons on offense, when you're Ohio State, Notre Dame had no answer for those weapons. And defensively, Ohio State looked like an NFL team almost.
Yeah, they really did. Nick Hamilton, Nitecast Media, does a great job. Also, SiriusXM Radio. Have a safe flight back to the West Coast, my friend. Thank you for giving me some time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We have to do this again in a more quiet.
We will. Always appreciate it, my friend. We're coming back. More Sports Wrap on a Tuesday. We take things to segment 3 on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. Sam's off tomorrow. Vladimir Louisant will hang out with me on the show, as he does now on Wednesdays. Kurt Heelan will be here, pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. Boy, did the Warriors get smacked around on Monday night at home by the Celtics. Good lordy. So we'll be joined by our friends Vlad and Kurt Heelan. Have our good NBA roundtable conversation on Tuesday. But there is NFL coaching news, Sam Yarnell, and it probably would have been the lead today if not for the fact that there was a national championship game, because I don't know if people expected this domino to fall so quickly, and that is Ben Johnson leaving Detroit, where he was offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he chooses the Bears for his head coaching debut in the National Football League. And while the banner reads NFL coaching news, Johnson chooses the Bears, maybe the banner should read, we'll have to talk to the production staff, maybe the banner should read Caleb Williams chooses Ben Johnson. Because from all accounts, it seems Caleb Williams had a major hand in sort of deciding who the Bears were going to go after to try and lead this offense from an off-the-field standpoint. And Ben Johnson was the guy that I think Bears fans wanted, the guy that Caleb Williams obviously wanted. And I'll say this now, Sam. There's no excuses for Caleb Williams in year 2. You got 1 full year under your belt as an NFL starting quarterback. You have arguably the hot young coordinator. We go through this every year. The hot young coordinator to come in and lead the team. Somebody within the division, somebody who knows you well, knows your team well. You're supposed to have a talented group of wide receivers. I think they underachieved. The receivers did this year. But, I mean, you're set up now if you're Caleb Williams in this Bears franchise. And it's also about, for me, Sam, changing the identity and the culture of this franchise, which forever and more has been about running the football and defense. The monsters of the Midway. The mentality has to change, and Ben Johnson has to bring. We talk about culture changes, DeMeco Ryans. We talk about culture changes, Dan Campbell. By the way, both first-time head coaches as well. So for everybody saying, first-time head coach, I don't know if this is the job for Ben Johnson. We saw those coaches be able to do that in Houston and Detroit. Why not Ben Johnson in Chicago?
I agree with you, but Jason, I think that there's way more pressure on Caleb Williams than we're making it out to be. We're saying that Ben Johnson's going to have to come in here and all the pressure is going to be on him to take an organization that has quite literally been a dumpster fire for the vast majority of my lifetime and make them a playoff contender all of a sudden because they've got one player who, again, we're really not that sure is all that good. Listen, if Ben Johnson can't fix Caleb Williams from what, because last year he was bad. I mean, let's just be frank. He was at best the third best rookie quarterback. And I think there are people who would actually argue, I'm not one of them, but Michael Penix had a better season than Caleb Williams did. There's a door open there. Ben Johnson took Jared Goff, cast away from the LA Rams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round dart throw. Absolute, maybe we'll get lucky with the 112th pick and turn him into a top 3 receiver in the league. And Jared Goff is a perennial top 10 quarterback. And quite frankly, neither of those guys are the talent at which they are playing. Ben Johnson does this to people. Ben Johnson has proven he can do this to people. The fact of the matter is, if Caleb Williams cannot take a Ben Johnson offense and be successful in it, in my opinion, it is way more of a detriment to Caleb Williams and way more detrimental to Caleb Williams' career than it is to Ben Johnson's. Ben Johnson has already been to the playoffs with a team. He's already taken an offense and made it the best in football. The fact of the matter is, all Caleb Williams is so far is a letdown. He's a first overall pick who the guy right after him was historically better than him. So, yes, there should be pressure on Ben Johnson, but that pressure should be tenfold on Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to say there's no pressure on Ben Johnson. I think there's
Sure.
always pressure, even if it's the pressure from within. And that fan base wanted him, and when that fan base wants you as badly as they wanted Ben Johnson, that collective sigh of relief you heard, that collective cheer you heard, came from Chicago yesterday, because that fan base was dying to get Ben Johnson, and they did. So there is the pressure from that standpoint. The Caleb Williams stuff, look, I'm not going to go let down after 1 year. I just can't, especially when you consider, him and Matt Eberflus sort of inherited each other. They inherited a culture. They inherited a mindset. I think this is a blank slate for Caleb Williams in 2025. I think you clear the slate. You get all these guys in a room together. You set the tone, if you're Ben Johnson, for what you want this thing to look like. And then Caleb Williams, you got to go out and look. I mean, a big part of the problem for Caleb Williams last year, hanging on to the football too long. They've got to get him to make decisions faster. Did they protect him as well as they could? Absolutely not. But there's a lot of guys in this league that don't get protection and are getting run at left and right and still find ways to make plays and get rid of the football.
Bo Nix.
Yes, Bo Nix. I mean, C.J. Stroud, Joe
rookies
Joe
this
Burrow.
year, I'm just talking about.
Even if you're talking just rookies.
You're right, though, in that I am too quick to call him the player a letdown, right?
Sure.
He is not a bust at the first overall pick yet, right?
Not yet.
He's not freaking Ryan Leaf, and I'm not calling him that. But I do think it is fair to say that last year, for the hype that we had, and you say this, Jason, about the collective sigh of relief that Bears fans had with the Ben Johnson hiring. We all felt it. It was very similar, in my mind at least, to the collective sigh of relief that Bears fans took when they drafted Caleb Williams. And look at how that turned out after a season.
Yeah, I think, look, there's no question that this year was disappointing, especially when they actually got off to a halfway decent start.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you remember how great that division was through like 5 weeks?
Yes.
It was crazy.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I mean, it still wound up being great with the exception of the Bears. I mean, 3 of the 4 teams were obviously.
And then none of them won a playoff game.
And then none of them won a playoff game. It was like the SEC and the college football playoff this year. Sorry, SEC. Sorry. I know. Look, the Big Ten rules the roost now. What can I tell you? It'll be interesting to see what 2025 looks like. The first offseason shots across the bow have been fired. And the Chicago Bears go and get their man in Ben Johnson. And again, how it all plays out for Caleb Williams. He is being put now in the best possible position to succeed. Speaking of succeeding, David Aardsma had some success in his career as a reliever. He is our closer. We're talking Major League Baseball with him next. All right, halfway home on this Tuesday edition of SportsWrap. We haven't talked any baseball in a little bit. It's been a minute since we had David Aardsma on the show. I said, it's a Tuesday, why not? Actually, the true story, David, is I wouldn't have probably had you on until Wednesday when Sam was off. You are here at the request of that guy. Wait, hold on, let me point the right direction. Sam Yarnell.
The hair.
Sam Yarnell actually said, I want David Aardsma on the show. Because I got some problems with you people. He said he had some stuff that he wanted to talk about. So you should thank Sam if you're happy to be on the show, because Sam wanted to have you on the show.
Get Aardsma hot.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, there we go. So that is why you're here today. So the Dodgers just continue just firing bullets at everybody. Roki Sasaki, Tanner Scott. Now this morning on Tuesday morning, we learned they get Kirby Yates as well.
They got Yates.
Yep.
Really?
Yates, yep.
I know. Fight so hard for the Dodgers, but come on, guys.
I know. I mean, what do you make of the embarrassment of riches in Los Angeles?
I think there's a couple different arguments. One, let's talk about Sasaki and Tanner Scott and Yates. I still have to process that. Sasaki, when you're sitting there as a free agent and the money's even pretty much across the board, maybe $1 million difference here, $500,000 there. There's no question why you go there, why you go to LA. There's not a question. My only problem is when we're sitting here and we're looking at this team, and if you're a young player, everyone just throws him in the rotation. But I'm sorry, but you've got 7 guys heavy in that rotation right now, 8 maybe. And it's not just a guarantee that you're going to be starting for this team just because you signed a minor league contract with a signing bonus that other kids sign all the time. So it's not necessarily given that this guy's going to be just plop him right in there. And that's my concern, is that he had San Diego, he'd be the 4th, 5th guy in the rotation right now today. Or here, and there's 8 heavy. Like Gonsolin and Dustin May, like, it's not guaranteed that they're not going to be starting as well. So, if Gonsolin's good when he comes back, again, they're making a lot more money. So it's a really interesting sign, but I understand why you do it. It's a great place to sign, a lot of history in pitching, and he's going to be just fine. Tanner Scott, this is exactly what you said, the embarrassment. The totally different sign. I mean, $70 million. It's absolutely insane that they can still keep throwing these type of money around and have the ability to sustain it. What it's showing is that there's more money in this game than we think. And there's more money in this game than what 29 other owners are telling you there are.
David, when we talk about, obviously, the Sasaki thing, the Haesung Kim, another name out of the KBO that the Dodgers signed seemingly under the table, who is supposed to be a really good talent. Those kind of aside, right? They're international players. They have to come for a set amount of money. You take the same amount whether you go to the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mariners, the Mets, whoever you go to. These free agents, Tanner Scott, bringing back Teoscar Hernandez, obviously in the wake of the Ohtani contract last year. What does it mean for baseball on the whole that one team is giving out so much payroll with relation to the rest of the league?
Again, I think it's a sign that there's more money to be had. And when they signed Ohtani and they came out and said this, is they made a whole lot more money than they ever assumed they were going to make. So they know the financials. They know if they can push these contracts back, money's going to be cheaper down the line. And there's money there to be had. And that's where you look at these other teams that aren't putting the same amount of money constantly after free agents and seeing that there's money to be made. And that's my thing about it. It's going to catch up at some point. The money will catch up at some point. We saw this in the past. We saw this in the Yankees when they're, in early 2000s, they're signing everybody too, and they had no reins until 2009. This team is so good, though. That's my only concern, is that they can go on an easy run here. But if they don't, it's still going to look at baseball and say, hey, the best developed prospects win baseball, the guys that stay healthy. And you know what? That rotation was a player or two, like an injury away from being completely decimated and not going that far into the playoffs as they did last year. I mean, most teams won't even be able to sustain it. And I think it's going to catch up. And there's still teams like San Diego and Arizona are still, man for man, they're really close with the Dodgers.
Are we trending towards a lockout? The collective bargaining agreement ends December 1st, 2026, after the season after next. Are we going to lock out because of all this contract stuff?
I don't think so. I think the problem is within the owners, and that's something they're going to have to figure out amongst themselves. They're going to every year, dude. Every single year we talk about caps and all that stuff, and maybe this is like a conspiracy theory way to get a cap, but it's going to even out. And that's the thing, is that the Yankees have a great team. The Diamondbacks, the Padres, the Phillies still have just an incredible team that could, in 7 games beat this Dodgers team without a problem. And so if they lose, what's the point? And they can keep spending all the money they want, but if they have a couple injuries, they're right there with everybody. And I don't think we're that far removed from understanding that baseball, man, is like anybody can win. Not starting a pitcher, and the Philly team, the Mets team, if they get a couple starters, they're just as good.
David, look, the fact that the Blue Jays finally got anybody in free agency should be a top story right now, because they have swung and missed at just about everything. In this offseason, they get Anthony Santander, but still, when you look at the depth of talent in the American League East right now, it still feels like a big uphill climb for them.
Absolutely, it's a big uphill climb, especially in your last place. And now the Alex Bregman may be going to the Red Sox. I don't know if that's a done deal or not. But so you're looking at these other teams. I don't think they've jumped anybody. I don't think they've come close to jumping anybody. Maybe the Rays, maybe that's it. But at the end of the day, have they made any waves? No. And Santander, great sign, incredible sign. Yeah. You need a lot more.
We're going to hang for another segment. David Aardsma, our guest on the show. Lots more to get to on the baseball with him next. Another segment of baseball. Why not? We haven't talked about it in like 2 or 3 weeks. I thought it was a good idea to have our friend David Aardsma on the show. Former big league reliever. Friend of the program. Sam Yarnell hangs out with us as well. We taking you away from something there, Sam? You look like you're dialed into something. You all right?
No, I was getting up the list of available free agents, okay. Jason. I got to be locked in for some free agent discussion with our closer. Come on now.
Looking at wrestling highlights.
I'm just making sure. Hey, Raw was on last night. So Alex Bregman, David, still a free agent. We'll get to Pete Alonso if we have time here as well. But Alex Bregman, still a free agent. Are you surprised this has gone this long, or are you not as surprised?
I am not as surprised, knowing it's kind of his market, right? It's his market to call. There wasn't a whole lot of third baseman that even close to his level, right? So he can sit there and kind of like judge his own market. Last year, the last couple of years, we saw free agents just like him going all the way into spring training and stuff like that. So I've got no problems with it. It's just we had a lot quicker market this year than we have in the past, and so that's why it seems so surprising that it's later. Where last 2-3 years, this is exactly the pace it's been. And so I think by him waiting, though, and seeing all these players go to these, basically the Dodgers and the Yankees, it's allowing the market to actually come forward and giving him more options.
All right, fair enough. Give me a thought on Paul Skeens here, because they had this fan fest in Pittsburgh this weekend, and I was fascinated by a couple of things. One, you basically had fans, a mutiny saying, sell the team, sell the franchise. We're not happy with the direction it's going. And then you had Paul Skeens kind of trying to be the voice of reason for those fans and saying, no. If everything breaks right and if we play fundamental baseball and we do all this, and I'm sitting there going, oh, he is not jaded yet. This not the naivete. I mean, come on. The reality is, this is a team that's, a 500 team at best, because ownership has failed the fan base miserably. So as much as I love Skeens, I'm like, come on. Somebody's got to get in his head and say, be real here.
No. Keep it like, let him walk the corporate line, right? Let him walk right there. I'll let him do it. I don't need Paul Skeens to shake in the boat yet. Like, it's 1 year. He's not even one full season. Let him just pitch. Let him do his thing. One of the best young starting pitching staffs we've ever seen, right? And again, they're a 500 ball team at best. Okay, let's say they're 500. That's an incredible season for where this team has come from. Now, they're 10 games below 500 last year. If they're 500 this year, that is the road. That's the Tigers' road. The Tigers 2 years ago weren't going out there and signing all these players. The Diamondbacks weren't signing these guys 3 years ago.
Well, it's almost like
he's go down this road.
It is almost like he's trying to make the argument they could be the Tigers this year.
Absolutely. But again, the Tigers weren't this dominant team either until the last half month of the season, right? So last month of the season. So let them be 500. It's okay. Let them develop their own talent. They've got an incredibly young team and McCutchen. Let them be really young and develop together. And then you pick and choose who fits, who doesn't. And then you find the guys. You don't need to sign the big free agents yet. yet. Now, next year, you have to. Next year, the same road the Diamondbacks, same road you're seeing with the Tigers trying to sign some guys. Now, then you have to go down that road. But let them develop. Let them be young for another year, and then go, okay, cool. O'Neal Cruz is legit center, legit going to be he's going to here. And you got your core guys. Keep them and then see where that team goes. I like it. I'm okay with it.
All right. Want to ask you about Pete Alonso, which we'll do in just a moment, but got to say hi to our friends from Credit Associates. You saw Will Howard last night. How good was he, huh? Ohio State national champions, and the job they did blocking Notre Dame from winning a national championship for the first time in almost 40 years. Is debt blocking you right now? Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt, in over your head trying to make monthly payments? There's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades. With one affordable low monthly payment, Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. What are you waiting for? It could save you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. Find out how much you could save right now. Call 1-800-747-5362. That's 1-800-747-5362, or just click the QR code right there. Sam Yarnell?
David, we'll get to Pete Alonso in just a second, but this thought popped in my head and I want to run it by you. In an era in baseball where we're seeing teams like the Braves take these incredibly young, talented players and buy some of their years out in exchange for getting a cheaper deal on some of those extended years, do you think Paul Skeens is a candidate for that to happen in Pittsburgh? Between the way this ownership has been acting and how talented we see him being the Cy Young favorite already for next year?
You got 1 minute, David. Go.
They tried to do it. I imagine there's already been conversations that's been out there. No matter what Paul Skeens says, there's been conversation because you're an idiot if you're the Pirates and you haven't thrown something on the table. But I can't imagine with that talent, with how he hit the ground running so quickly, that he's not going to sit back and wait.
What do you think of Pete Alonso?
Alonso, frustrating as heck. I can't believe that he isn't getting more money than what he's getting. You compare him, Guerrero, and Bregman together, their stats, and he leads in every single category except for WAR, because he's not a third baseman, and OBP and batting average. Every single stat line. He leads second most home runs in Major League Baseball since he's entered the league, behind Aaron Judge, who's the $500 million player, right? $400 million player. Why is he getting screwed? And I don't understand it, because he compares with all these other guys even better.
Where do you think he winds up at the end of the day? Is it back in New York with the Mets?
I think it's New York Mets, a very short deal with an opt-out with a chance. We're talking about Guerrero being a $400 million guy, $500 million guy, and he kicks his butt in every single stat, and they've been in the league the same time. I get it, Guerrero's younger, but he's kicked his butt in every single stat.
David Aardsma, our closer, former big league reliever. Thank you, my friend.
Of course.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Don't forget, tomorrow, Kurt Heelan drops by. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. Got a lot to get into with him when it comes to the NBA. What's going on with Anthony Edwards? Not the sort of season they were anticipating from him in Minnesota. The Warriors are a mess. All sorts of good stuff to get into. I saw LeBron at the game last night, by the way, enjoying Ohio State winning the Natty, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in just a second. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast version of the show, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, actually make that YouTube Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it, we are on all of them. Go and subscribe today and go and check that out. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. I got up at 1:30 in the morning out here on the West Coast to watch Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. There are a few things that make me get out of bed in the middle of the night. Give me the very best tennis players in the world playing against each other in Grand Slam events, and I'm there every single time. This one, no different. The ball striking was incredible. Novak Djokovic bounces back after dropping the first set and sort of being banged up. He was dealing with some sort of leg injury that was bothering him. I think it was a quad, and he actually left the court, came back in the second set, wins that one 6-4, and goes on to win the next 2 sets after that. Beats Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets to advance to the semifinals. And I wouldn't bet against him right now. I know Yannick Sinner is still out there. He faces Sasha Zverev in the next round. I think Ben Shelton is still in this thing, if I'm not mistaken. Hats off to Novak Djokovic. At 37, he had the 21-year-old Carlos Alcaraz frustrated. He had him running around the court. And I'll tell you something else he had, Sam, that I have rarely seen in a Novak Djokovic match. He had the crowd on his side. He's gone. It's like there's these turns in wrestling where you got heels and faces and baby faces. He's been the heel for the longest time, but now he's sort of the underdog trying to, capture 1 or 2 more majors. He's not the top-ranked player in the world by far. The reason why we see him meeting Alcaraz in the quarterfinals, being evidence of that. It was cool to see Novak out there at 37 telling the kid, hey, it might be your time, but it ain't now.
So I want to talk strategy, some tennis strategy
from
yours truly.
Wow.
Obviously,
this I gotta hear.
Biggest tennis
Cheers.
fan on the show, the guy who knows the most about tennis that we have on the show. I say all these things, you think me, right? My name pops in your head. Not Jason Page, not Patrick. It's me, right? I'm the one who knows all the tennis.
Sure.
Jason alluded to it. Djokovic lost the first set, right? Every time he wins a match, all I come on here and talk about is the guy always loses the first set and then comes back and wins the match. That's all he ever does. The sports books have adjusted to it. Everyone's adjusted to it. Novak Djokovic, first set loser, full match winner. You can almost book it every time he plays a high level match. Strategy time. If I'm Carlos Alcaraz or anyone, or if I'm Alexander Zverev, who either, I guess, as Jason calls him, Sasha Zverev, who has to meet him now in the semis, here's my strategy. Throw the first set. Throw it. Do whatever you have to do. Don't make it a shutout. Don't make it 6-6 love.
Yeah,
right?
don't get
but,
bageled.
6-2, 6-3. Make him think you had a chance. 6-4. But let Djokovic win the first set. See if he can keep that momentum wire to wire in terms of a tennis match. Jason, I think that's the only thing that you can do to beat him at this point. He's 37 and beating the best player in the world.
Amazing. Denies Alcaraz a shot at capturing the career Grand Slam at the age of 21, by the way, which is very rare as well. One last thing I want to get to, but before I get to it, I got to talk about our friends over at Edge Boost. I'm all about trying to make money the best way possible when it comes to my daily sports betting. I know Sam is. And that's exactly why I'm pumped to tell you all about Edge Boost, the financial platform that pays you cash back to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account. It pays you for every deposit. With the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you're getting up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's right. Free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're doing already. It's a no-brainer. Plus, your Edge Boost debit card starts with a $250,000 daily limit and will never be declined for gambling activity. They've got built-in tools to help you stay responsible, and there's absolutely no hidden fees or minimum required balances. So stop leaving money on the table. Go to edgeboost.bet. That's edgeboost.bet to learn more. Sign up today. Sign up is easy. It takes just a couple of minutes. I just did it last week. Edgeboost.bet, or just click the QR code below. My pick for the national championship game was Notre Dame. I had Notre Dame getting 8 points. The line dropped. It was weird. It went 8.5, then it went to 9 on William Hill, which was what I was using, and then went down to 8. So I got Notre Dame at 8, which wasn't the greatest number to get him at minus 115. And I thought I was dead in the water, Sam. Thought I had no shot. And then, like a lightning bolt, Notre Dame scores late. They get the 2-point conversion. They're down by 8. I was offered a payout and didn't take it.
Click. I
said, there's no way I could lose. Push it worst. There you see it on your screen. You know what happened. I lost. Thanks, Sam Yarnell. Thanks, David Aardsma. Thanks, Nick Hamilton. Thanks to you. We'll see you tomorrow.